What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Leinart, 2004 Heisman Trophy winner, and you're watching the Harris Highlight Show.
Na 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 na.
Coming to you live from the Bill Austin Radio Studio at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism in beautiful downtown Phoenix. This is episode 14 of season 3 of the Harris Highlight Show. Joining me this week is our college football expert, Josh Schaefer, who's rocking a beautiful Notre Dame jersey, our college football analyst, Lyle Goldstein, with our executive producer, Brady Clay. Now, gentlemen,
Hi, guys.
Okay, my thing does work. I can hear you guys now.
You can hear me, just not the music?
That's fantastic. Yeah, I couldn't hear the music.
Can you hear the music? It's still going.
Very vaguely. So the good thing is my headset does work. We were having a mid-panic attack right before we went on, but hey, everything works. But Josh, nice jersey you got there. Do you care to explain?
No, I'd really like to just move on past the jersey. No, so Lyle and I were at the USC Notre Dame game this weekend, and like we have the last 2 years, we've made a jersey bet. 2 years ago, he wore my SC jersey or sweatshirt or something.
I'm on your Instagram in a USC sweatshirt. That's
yeah,
what it is.
So lucky you, we didn't have cameras then, so nobody could see this. Last year, I wore the Notre Dame jersey on campus, actually made friends with this kid named Austin, who's from South Bend, is a Notre Dame fan. He said, hey, nice jersey. I said, no, it's not. And then we became friends. And now this year, to my dismay, we have cameras on the show, so now everyone gets to see me in all my shame.
You look so pretty.
Yes, thank you. I'm also feeling a bit under the weather, if you couldn't tell. So this is just great.
Hey, don't sneeze on my gorgeous jersey, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, his kids medium
I've
sized
had it for a long
jersey.
time. I have.
Well, guys, this week's episode is brought to you by the Ridge Wallet. The Ridge is a minimal front pocket wallet that's designed to let you ditch that bulky wallet that Josh does not have on him today that I've noticed, at least from this side.
I think it's in my backpack.
Maybe it is. It comes in titanium, carbon fiber, aluminum, and a bunch of other cool different styles and colors. Don't carry around that loaded wallet anymore. It just looks better, weighs less, and just keeps everything intact. Get 10% off today with free worldwide shipping by going to ridgewallet.com/h. Now, before we dive deep into all the nitty-gritties, Brady has something he'd like to say.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on that wallet, Blake.
Oh, as am I. I'm still waiting to hear back from them. But hey, it's all good. They pay, so that's all that matters. But before we dive deep into the news and the games and whatnot with the rankings, first off, if you're not already, follow us on Twitter at the HHShow_. If you're listening to the show live right now, go on over to Twitter, hit that follow button, interact with us. Plenty of awesome, fun things coming up in the next hour and a half as well. Before we talk about that, I want to promote the Harris Highlights Bowl Mania group.
Yes.
So you guys are definitely going to have to join it because I always know either you don't or it comes down to the very last minute and you guys join. So this is your friendly reminder. And to those that are listening, I'm going to post the link when the show is posted on YouTube. I think this Sunday is when they announce the bowl game. So
that is correct.
You can't partake until Sunday, but once Sunday rolls around, make sure to fill it out. But just an early heads up saying go over there, join the group. I think last year we had about 1,100 people join the group. So if we can get more than that this year, then we're doing our job. So go on over there to the link in the description, join the bowl group, compete with over 1,000 fans and the four of us and see if you can luckily guess more games than us. It requires no skill. It's just a matter of how good you are at picking.
Weren't we the largest non-affiliated group last year?
We were. We were the largest non-affiliated group, and we had, I think, the highest scorer.
Yeah.
Or he was the highest scorer. He was in our group, and he was in an Alabama group. I forget what the name of the user was.
It was a cool name. I remember that.
We had the highest in the country last year, so that was fairly cool. So going over there, join. It's going to be...
Was that Major Killa Deluxe or something? Was that
Agent
Super
Killa Deluxe?
Agent Killa Deluxe, I think it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was something like that. Well, the good news is we're about 5 minutes in, and I think Josh's camera's still working.
Yeah, look at that.
We had a little problem last week, and Lyle's camera died as well, so knock on wood, all of our cameras stay tacked tonight.
Hey, you just got to see Blake and I. There was random clips. I went back and watched it because I knew I was on it a lot, so you just cut to me dancing a bunch, Blake.
Yeah, because there was nothing else to cut to. But before we dive deep into the playoff rankings, let's talk about the few games that happened from this past week. Now, this one was kind of like Monday Football 2.0 with Oklahoma and West Virginia. Going into the game, I believe the over in this was something like 86, 87.
I don't think you can hear it.
I don't think you can either.
It had to have been the... what happened?
You can't hear my soundbite, can you?
I can't.
Switch headphones. Grab the ones across from you.
No, they're all like wired in.
All right, I'm going to see what happens. Josh, we're going to talk about the Oklahoma-West Virginia game while I go figure out my headsets. Talk.
Okay. Well, this Oklahoma-West Virginia game, I mean, we've said this the past couple weeks, right? West Virginia plays a football game. Oklahoma plays a football game. And it's kind of what we expect from two high-powered Big 12 offenses. 59-56, guys. What are you doing? This is the host of our show over here. He's like fiddling with some headphones or something. I don't know what he's doing. God, Blake, you should just cut to your camera right now. Anyway, all right. Well, we have
Brady's got some headphones. I'm gonna go in the studio. And
make sure you have your ID because we can't get you back into that studio if you don't. There you go. You might want to kick the. Okay, this is just not going well.
Let's just talk some Oklahoma, West Virginia football.
All right. The two best people on the show. Am I right, people in the comments? You'll scrutinize us. 59-56. I think this is pretty much exactly what we were expecting. We should do this every show, by the way. I mean, okay, so Kyler Murray, I think he made a statement for potentially still being a Heisman Trophy candidate this week, and I think that Gardner Minshew did the opposite, but we'll get there. And I see a lot of people that are now really considering Kyler to be in New York rather than where people were considering him maybe a few weeks ago after Tua started to take off, Gardner Minshew started to take off, and then even Dwayne Haskins was kind of stepping back into the foreground a little bit, or into the background a little bit. But now Kyler has really stepped back into the foreground. Wouldn't you agree?
No, absolutely. I mean, you look at what the guy did this week: 114 yards on the ground, 364 through the air, 4 total touchdowns. He's the heart and soul of this team. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are offensive weapons on this team: CeeDee Lamb, Hollywood Brown, Trey Sermon, who had a surprisingly underwhelming game. He didn't have a whole lot of carries this week, but it all runs through number one. It all runs through Kyler Murray. And where would this team be without Kyler Murray? Man, to be honest, I don't know. And it's like you always say, if you take the Heisman winner should go to whoever is the most valuable player on their team. Kyler Murray's making the case. We always say it. Is Tua going to win it? Most likely.
Probably.
And deservingly so for the most part. But I don't think he is the most valuable guy on the University of Alabama. I think it's somebody on the defense, whether it be Deontay Thompson, Quinnen Williams, one of those guys. Kyler Murray is hands down the most valuable guy on Oklahoma's team because if he weren't there to put up 55 points a game, they would probably have a handful of losses at this point.
Exactly. And I think one thing that Oklahoma offense did so well to just overpower the West Virginia defense, I know they only won by 3, and I've mentioned this before, I have both CeeDee Lamb and Hollywood Brown on my college fantasy team, and this was the first time in a couple weeks that both of them had big days, not only for my fantasy team, which lost its 5th straight game. I also haven't set a lineup since I got eliminated from the playoffs. But this was the first time I thought that the passing game was balanced to so many different receivers. Because, I mean, they have so many different weapons. They, I think, very clearly have probably the best wide receiving core in the country, if not the best, and they're easily top 5. Because you have Morris, you have Lamb, you have Hollywood Brown, you have so many other weapons that you can go to. And then you also have Trey Sermon and the running backs that have been so good in the absence of Rodney Anderson.
I got to say, Josh, Frank Darby from ASU begs to differ on the receiving court.
Frank Darby?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trey Sermon.
But
sorry, your mic was still off. I turned it back on.
But I think
is it on? Oh, perfect.
Well, I think the running backs have done a good job ever since Rodney Anderson went down. But I think that this game was when they needed to see production from every different facet of their offense, and we saw that this week.
Yeah, we did. And Kennedy Brooks, it's been so many guys, you're right, since Rodney went down. We saw Sutton for a little bit. Trey Sermon's been the guy for most of the year. But Kennedy Brooks, as of the last 4 games or so, he's taken on a big role in a big way. And in probably the most important game of Oklahoma's season to this point, just under 200 yards. I mean, in 21 carries, he was averaging 9 yards a carry. I mean, this guy really, really stepped up in a big way. And like you said, it's that balanced attack of the Oklahoma offense. Everybody knows they can throw the ball. Everybody knows Kyler can run the ball very efficiently. But when they establish those running backs, when they get Sermon and Brooks heavily involved and they're effective, that's when they're at their strongest.
But what does this game now mean for Will Grier? Is he definitely in the background now?
For the Heisman?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's...
okay, so I think he'll get invited to New York. But background, I mean, you can't put any blame on Will Grier for this game. The guy threw for 540 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's just the matter of the fact of... Oh, boy. It's just a matter of the fact of unfortunately, this was a Q&A question last week that we talked about a little bit, but team success often heavily goes into what makes or breaks your Heisman run.
Yeah.
For Will Greer, whether it's a fault of his own or not, West Virginia's got 3 losses. They're not making the playoffs at this point. So that's where he kind of, like you said, maybe shades into the background a little bit and is not going to be up with Kyler and Tua.
Yeah, and I think that really sets up a fantastic rematch for Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. By the way, this is our show now. We're doing it. Moving on to our next game, Michigan and Ohio State.
Hey, I'm down. If you host the show, it means I don't have to do the tables at Blaze anymore. So if you want to start hosting,
I thought we were all
ahead.
doing that.
Oh, we are? Okay.
I'm sorry, this is new information to me. What's going on here?
Okay, so we actually just went to a station meeting downstairs and then left a little bit early to come do the show because we're
Go
so committed to the
Pacers.
viewers. What was I talking about? Oh, so they said that something new next semester is that they're going to have the hosts for every show are going to table for Blaze.
So what we said,
All right,
Brady, is all 4 of us will just do it together. It'll
How
be
fun would that be?
Basically, we just have to set up a table and be like, hey.
Are we
everyone's
going
on
to
Blaze
do
Radio?
the show live from the table?
Oh, my goodness.
Hey, we'll get a laptop and have people come up and click on their favorite video so it gets you more views.
Yeah. Hey, you ever heard of Blaze Radio? Here, why don't you just click right there? Cool, thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
Well, Blake, as the co-host of this show, I'd like to throw it to you. What were your thoughts on the Oklahoma-West Virginia game?
Well, this Oklahoma-West Virginia game was absolutely phenomenal. It was a lot of fun, especially for those that made prop bets using Bovada. We'll get to Blake's bets in a later, but there was a lot of prop bets during the game going on. There was like total completions from Kyler Murray, total yards, total catches from each player, and let's just say there was a good amount going on that was having a lot of fun. Yes, Brady? I think I'm like hearing it through someone else's headphones because I still can barely hear
I'm
it.
the same way as you. I can barely hear it. I'm sure it's coming through the
It's
soundboard.
very loud for me.
So I'm not
You
getting
guys
it.
are
So
lucky.
you have a combined, what is this, 115 points if I did the math correctly, 59 to 56. For those math majors that are listening, do that math for me to see if that's correct. But this was the game that everyone wanted. This was no one cares if there's no defense. Everyone just wanted there to be a lot of scoring, and there was. And Oklahoma, they came out on edge, a 3-point victory. Will Greer, can we just talk? I mean, you guys mentioned it. He threw for 540 yards. My goodness, 4 touchdowns, and he still gets a loss. Kyler Murray did Kyler Murray things, threw for 365, ran for 115. And this Oklahoma rushing attack, where we talked about Trey Sermon in previous weeks, I needed a big game from Trey Sermon. Didn't necessarily get that because he had 5 rushes for 12 carries. I'm still not sure if he was injured or something happened, but Kennedy Brooks comes in, rushes for nearly 200 yards. My goodness, fantastic. And then the receiving core. Also, I'm sure I'm just late to the party on this, but I mean, I've seen my fair share of Oklahoma games. I've watched my fair share of highlights. This was the first time I found out that Hollywood Brown is Antonio Brown's cousin.
See,
didn't know-
I
you
was
didn't
going
know
to bring
that?
it up in one of the previous shows, but I figured you
never-
all knew it and I'd be ridiculed like I usually am.
No, that's why he was on the sidelines this past weekend for the Oklahoma game.
Yeah, I mean, they kept showing him, and they're like, oh, it's his cousin. I'm like, well, there you go. 11 catches, 250 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You're doing the Brown family name pretty well. CD Lamb has a nice day.
Well, did you know that Antonio Brown's dad is one of the greatest Arena League football wide receivers of all time? He's the all-time leading receiver touchdown in Arena Football League history. Touchdown Eddie Brown was his nickname.
Touchdown, Eddie Brown. But
Yep.
Oklahoma, West Virginia, if anything, I think this game pretty much put Kyler Murray at number 2 in the Heisman race. At least that's where he'd be in mine. Not sure how much it really means. In regards to Will Greer, now, the thing is for the Heisman, they kind of do it differently every year, where some years they'll invite 5. A few years ago, back when, D.D. Westbrook was there, they invited 6. Some years they invite 3, so I'm not really entirely sure how many people they're going to invite. Assuming they invite 5, I think Will Greer is going to be one of the 5 people, because although they lost, he had a phenomenal game. He's having a phenomenal season, but, props to Oklahoma. They got the job done, and Oklahoma, they're still alive in the college football playoff spot. Now, this is what I'm going to say to you guys. We're going to get to scenarios later in the show, and we're going to talk about a lot of things. I'm not saying that Oklahoma has the best chance to beat Alabama. What I am saying, though, we kind of gave our friend TJ some ridicule about this a few weeks ago.
Guys, I think Oklahoma's going to score 50 points on Alabama.
Out of the 6 remaining teams or 7 remaining teams that have a shot at the college football playoff, I think Oklahoma has the best chance to put up the most points out of all those teams. Now, granted, they're also going to allow probably 70 to Bama, but they have the best. They have the best chance to put up at least 30 or 40.
They have the best chance to put up points. I don't disagree with that because their offense is incredible. Problem is, Bama's defense is that much better. So you're right. I think they could put up maybe 30, 32 points. It's not going to be 45. I'll tell you that right now. They're not putting 45 points up on Bama. Sorry, TJ. But I do agree with you that that offense probably has the best chance to expose Bama's defense.
I'm sorry. I'm just watching Brady take some sort of selfie. But yeah, that was a phenomenal game.
You got to promote it on social media.
Oh, of course, you definitely got to promote
Another
it on
one
social
of
media.
our Blaze Radio guidelines.
But speaking of the game, let's
Good host, Brady.
go over to the actual game. Well, if you want to call it that, because for Michigan it wasn't a game.
Which was not a game.
Yet again, for whatever reason, Michigan fails to show up for the game. And if you pretty much take away the game.
Oh, okay. I was confused there for a second.
The game. Now, Ohio State.
Ohio State.
The Ohio State University. Now, my goodness. I mean, we've been critical on Ohio State the last few weeks because they've had the close win over Maryland. They've been allowing a lot of points.
Where does this put the all-time series?
Oh, I was just going to ask you, Brady. Where does this put the all-time series?
I'll check.
I'll just give a quick background, or pretty much. It was about a month or so ago. We were talking about this rivalry game, and Brady, I forget what he said, but he said one team led the all-time series, when in reality, I forget which one he said, but it was the other way around, and someone on YouTube called him out for it and got into a nice little heated exchange.
I'm gonna go screen record on my computer right now and show you the process that I go, and so you can put it full screen and I can show you what I was doing.
So Brady said that Michigan owned the series.
I said Ohio State.
Yeah, he said Ohio State.
Oh, you said Ohio State owned the series. Oh yeah, then you're wrong.
But Sport Reference has Ohio State winning it.
Which is where things get complicated, but for Michigan, it didn't complicated.
Okay.
For Michigan, it didn't really matter though, because they didn't want to come to play this week. I mean, at halftime they still had a chance. That second half, though, Ohio State scores 38. Right? I believe Michigan had the number one rated defense coming into the game, and Ohio State put 62 on them. Michigan officially eliminated from not only the playoff contention, but from Big Ten championship contention as well. Ohio State, guys. Were we wrong about Ohio State? Were we too critical on them? Or is this an Ohio State team that is probably one of the 5-6 best teams in the country?
Well, I'll tell you what. Had Dwayne Haskins not had those couple of really tough weeks before that Maryland game last week, stat-wise, number-wise, I don't think he'd win at this point, and I've made that clear that it's Tua's, but he'd be right in the conversation. He might be at number 2 at this point had it not been for those couple bad weeks. I mean, in the biggest game of the year, in the most crucial game of Ohio State's season, he rises above the challenge. 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. 6 touchdowns out of Haskins.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and against the number 1 defense in the country. Ohio State, look, I think they're very up and down. They're kind of sporadic. You don't always know what you're going to get with them, except for the fact that they almost look like a Big 12 team this year in the sense that they put up so many points. They allow a lot, but they put up so many points that they just rely on their offense to win in these shootouts. And that's what they did against Michigan. Because Michigan's offense hasn't been a slouch this year. They put up a lot of points in this game. But Ohio State's offense was that much better and that much more dominant that they exposed that Michigan defense, even with Chase Winovich playing, even with guys like Bush and Rashawn Gary. They proved that maybe we were a little too hard on them. Maybe they do still have something left in their bag of tricks. And they're making a late push for the playoffs like they seem to do every single year.
So I have a little background information going back to the head-to-head matchup. On Sport Reference, which is an official college football stat website, an official professional sport website, it says output only includes games where both schools were classified as major schools, and thus will not necessarily match, quote, official all-time results. So head-to-head all-time, Michigan leads a series. But when both were classified as major schools and Power 5 in whatever 1904 was considered, then that series as a whole, when both were major schools, it's Ohio State.
Yeah, see, but that even the numbers, they don't even add up, though. So I just went and I found Ohio State's football media guide from this season, and I went to their results by opponent, and I found their Michigan stat, and it even says that they're losing the series by 9 games, which is now 8 games. But
so this whole debate is up for for
Josh,
grabs.
you said Michigan said they were losing?
oh no, Ohio State said that they trailed the series by now 8 games.
All I want to know is
I
I want a matchup between Ohio State and Oklahoma. That would be a phenomenal game. I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but if Ohio State and Oklahoma were to get the 2-3 matchup, that would be fantastic. Now, we all can't have everything we want in life, but One could dream, but Dwayne Haskins, yeah, Lyle mentioned it. If he wouldn't have been having that like 2 or 3 week skid where he was just abysmal, he'd probably be number 2 or number 3 in the Heisman. I currently have him at my number 3 just because of this performance, and I kind of bumped Will Greer and I bumped Gardner Minshew from their performances this past weekend. We'll get to that also later in the show. But Ohio State, they jumped from 10-6. They're in that fold right now. Now they got a game against Northwestern. We're going to have to wait and see about that. We're going to talk about more Ohio State when we get to the college football playoff scenarios. Another game that had college football playoff implications this week was Washington State in an absolute blizzard. I mean, this game, it was weird because it started off, looked like just a heavy rain. It looked like it was just going to be a rainy game. And come the second quarter, it was just a downfall of snow, which is my personal favorite kind of football game to watch. I absolutely love it. It really changes the aspect of the game. And for this one, it affected Gardner Minshew. Only had 152 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, I'd say, I mean, it was a battle against Jake Browning. Well, Jake Browning had no touchdowns and 1 interception either, but he did have a QBR of a nice 61.4.
But what were the rushing stats of the game?
The rushing stats in the game.
Myles Gaskin popped off.
Yeah, Myles Gaskin
he was the MVP.
went absolutely. But I mean, it was largely due to an 80-yard run because if you take that away, he has 26 carries for about 90-ish yards. That's an okay game.
That's a good game.
And 2 touchdowns. It's still a pretty solid game.
It's an okay game. Washington State didn't have that good of a game. They only averaged 3.5 yards per carry, and everything else was just tough. Now, you can make the case that this was kind of a tough one for Washington State and Gardner Minshew because they were having to deal with these really tough elements, which it does suck for him because he was having an amazing year, and it's now going to be remembered. The most important game of the season, he couldn't win at home. He coughed it. So not only do you lose a chance at the college football playoff, you lose a chance of representing the Pac-12, you lose to Washington at home, and I still think he's going to be invited to New York for the Heisman race. But I think now, if he had any glimmer of hope, it's completely shattered now.
Well, yeah, he's not going to win, and I don't think we ever thought there was an incredibly high chance that he was going to win. But I still think he should absolutely invite it and absolutely be invited. And this is kind of what I talked about when Haskins and Ohio State lost to Purdue a few weeks back. Is don't let one bad game affect his entire season. Yes, he had a tough game. I also think that in the snow, it's pretty tough to throw the ball downfield and like offensive play calling, it obviously changes. You're not going to take a lot of deep shots. You're not going to be throwing a lot of passes. So for Minshew, it became a lot more about the run game. It became a lot more about trying to find that ground attack. And yeah, he had a couple interceptions. But again, look at what his full body of work was for the season. Look at what he did the other 11 games. And sure, you can take this Apple Cup into account a little bit, but he still absolutely deserves to be invited to New York. For what he did this season, he deserves to be invited.
Not only did you say, Lyle, that the conditions weren't in their favor, it didn't show snow in the weather forecast. It just showed there was going to be a little bit of rain and some cold temperatures. And so they didn't have to game plan for the snow. They just had to game plan for a little bit of rain, which throws off everything. Because if you're not sticking to your game plan, something major happened, whether it be an injury, whether it be weather, whether it be delay, whether it be any number of aspects can impact the game. And the snow was definitely one of them.
This game was decided when the snow started to fall. Because James Williams is a very suitable running back for Washington State. But the ground attack definitely favors Savon Ahmed, Myles Gaskin, and UW.
Well,
because you have a passing game, or you have a quarterback and an entire team that relies on the air raid attack that Mike Leach has been famous for since his Texas Tech days. Once that snow starts coming down, your game plan offensively is out the window and you had to rely on your offense.
Well, Chris Peterson said in his post-game interview on the field that the snow wasn't in our game plan, and as soon as it started to hit, we pulled back a little bit and was going to see if it was going to stick, and it did, and then we had to throw everything we prepped for out the window and sort of start new in the huddle in the field.
Yeah, but that's UW, and they have a structured running game with 2 very suitable running backs. And no disrespect to James Williams, I think he's a good running back, and I think he's suitable, especially for the offense that Washington State runs. There are some games when he looked really good this year, but you can't rely on him to carry your offense when you're going up against 2 guys, Myles Gaskin and Savon Ahmed, they both deserve to be starting running backs. They are both RB1s. And they can carry this offense, especially with Jake Browning, who we've talked with viewers on the show. We've talked about it amongst ourselves, that Jake Browning is not the Jake Browning that we all thought he was going to be. So why rely on a quarterback when you can rely on these 2 fantastic running backs? So that's why this game, I think, started to favor Washington as the snow started to come down, because I think that the defense suits them, and I really wanted to see. Lyle and I were talking about it watching this game, or talking about the game on. I picked him up from the airport and we're driving home, and we talked about we wanted to see Gardner Minshew go up against this Washington defensive secondary because this was going to be something we were going to watch for. Well, now that secondary already kind of favors UW defensively, and now Gardner's not throwing the ball, or he's not throwing the ball as much as you'd want him to, that's an issue.
Yeah, and that's why I say I almost feel like, obviously, while the result is final, there was almost a little bit of an asterisk in terms of getting to see Minshew up against this stout Washington defense.
Yeah, and we can, we can dissect this game as much as we want, and we can make excuses for it, and it's disappointing, but
This is your show. You can do whatever you want.
I mean, that's true. It is my show. Thanks, Brady. But you know what? Like, I would like to see a Washington rematch in better conditions. I think Washington State would probably take it, but we can't do that because Washington was able to better, adjust to the game plan and to the environments.
Well, we go from a blizzard to an avalanche of points scored because LSU and Texas A&M. Now, I made a video on this, and so many comments were saying I literally stopped watching this game because, for whatever reason, obvious reasons, the highest scoring FBS game of all time, not the highest scoring game of all time, because apparently back in the day, Georgia Tech beat some team, I forget the name of it, 222-0.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Probably Citadel.
don't go talking down on the Citadel. So Texas A&M, LSU, 74-72 in 7 overtimes. My goodness, I really hope for all those people out there that were in the fantasy football championship for college football, you had either Kellen Mond, Travion Williams, Joe Burrow on your team. Because if you did, you just won the league. Because Kellen Mond, 6 touchdowns, 300 yards. Joe Burrow has a total of nearly 400 yards, 6 touchdowns overall. What an absolute game. Now, going into overtime, there was 84 points scored in overtime. This was a game that had no... This came out of nowhere. This came absolutely out of nowhere, but yet it was the most exciting game to watch of the season. Not necessarily the best, because everyone's talking about how awful of a defensive performance it is. Well, you have to remember they're starting from the 25-yard line, so it's not like they're allowing that much defense. But what a game. This is something that every college football fan dreams of, and it was just as amazing as I hoped it could have ever been.
I'd be interested to see the TV numbers on it because it was on SEC Network. Mm-hmm. So not everybody gets SEC Network. They were showing clips of it on SportsCenter during the 11 or whatever time it was at, but it was on SEC Network, which less than half the country gets.
I had to connect my computer and set it up through the TV to watch, but when I set it up, it was only just because there was a game on, and it was like the fourth quarter. Now, the sad thing is, though, I guess I have to go back and rewatch the fourth quarter, how it ended. LSU was, I guess, about to win, and they went over and dumped the Gatorade on Ed Orgeron.
No way.
You guys didn't see this?
No, I didn't see that.
They dumped a Gatorade on him with less than a minute left, threw an interception, and the game was sent into overtime.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Yeah.
Because Texas A&M scored a touchdown right as time expired.
Yeah.
Now, I know a lot of people were talking about there was controversial officiating. I'm going to have to go back and see what happened, but they dump him in the Gatorade. They go on to overtime. They win. Now, I know you guys were at the SC game when this was going on, but at what point did you check your phone to see the score, or did you literally just get a notification saying the game went 7 overtimes and that was it?
So we're at the SC game and we're pulling out of the parking lot. And I mean, we had gone back to our tailgate a little bit and they were packing stuff up. So we helped everyone in massive tailgates. We're helping them put stuff away.
That's when I found out.
And that's when he found out. And we just get in the car and he says, "Hey, Josh, you want to do me a favor and check the score in the LSU Texas A&M game?" So I'm scrolling through, reading all the other scores.
I go, let me know when you find out, because I knew he was going to scroll and just be like, whoa.
Yeah, so I'm just oh, I saw that they were in a 5th overtime. So I remember seeing that. We were at the tailgate and I was like, holy cow, they're in a 5th overtime, but I didn't see the score. And we get in the car and that's when he's check the score. So I'm oh yeah, 24-14, 35-31, 21-17, 74-72. 7 overtimes. Oh my gosh. The best part, do you guys have the box score open right now?
Yeah.
Look at
That's
the box
what I was
score.
going to say.
It's
That's the craziest thing.
It's 7-7 first quarter, 10-3 second quarter, 7-7, 14-7, 41-43 in overtime. That's outstanding.
Oh, that's the craziest part about this whole thing is this game was tied up, at 31 when they went to overtime. 31-31 is not a ridiculous score. 84 combined points scored in overtime. That's what's just absolutely insane. I don't know if I've ever seen that.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, and the insane thing is that last year, I forget who, I knew it was Buffalo. I want to say Buffalo and Central Michigan maybe. They set the record last year for most points scored in an FBS game, but I believe that game went to 6 overtimes, so it wasn't nearly as this. And man, I wanted this thing to keep going. My personal dream was for it to get to 100. I wanted to see one team score 100, but we got 7 overtimes out of it. This is... I mean, who knows how it's going to happen, but most likely in our lifetime, this might be one of the highest scoring games we ever see, let alone a 7 overtime game.
Yeah, that was Buffalo and Western Michigan, 71-68.
71-68. So
wasn't there a
it.
Boise State game a couple years ago, too, that was like wild or something like that?
I don't know.
Texas A&M's basketball team has only scored more than 74 points once this season. And it was 98 points against Savannah State.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But what an absolute game. But like I said earlier...
They scored 74 against South Alabama.
If you had Kellen Mond or Joe Burrow starting for your fantasy team, you won yourself the championship. Because, my goodness, speaking of fantasy championship, I was in the fantasy championship against Big J, and I had my worst outing of the entire year. I'm fairly certain the worst outing any of us has had in the league all year. I think I had 58 total points.
Oh my gosh.
Did you forget to set a lineup?
This is what happened. I picked up Daniel Jones, the Duke quarterback, off of waivers for this very reason. He was facing Wake Forest, who going into that game had the worst passing defense in the country. They were allowing like 320 passing yards a game, the absolute worst. I picked him up.
Well, who's your other quarterback?
I had like Trevor Lawrence, and I had Khalil Tate. Oh, boy. But so I figured he's going to go off because he had put up like 30 points in 4 straight weeks. I picked up Duke's #1 receiver who's been going off. Daniel Jones throws for 1 touchdown. The Duke receiver catches like 3 passes. Deebo Samuel goes for 55 on my bench, and it was just an overall awful week.
That was a risk that I feel like I would not have been willing to take.
Well, I mean, I knew Khalil Tate wasn't going to do anything, just like he's done all year for me. And Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's been okay as...
It's okay. I lost the 5th place matchup, too.
No, that's okay. Lyle didn't even have a matchup for it. They don't even have a last place matchup.
What?
That's how bad his team was.
Dude, I was tied for first place like a couple weeks ago and then lost to get eliminated from the playoffs somehow. And then I just didn't set a lineup for like 3 or 4 weeks.
You absolutely hate to
The
see it.
epitome of brutality, Josh.
But now we go into the college football
epitome?
playoff
It's
rankings.
epitome, Brady.
No, it's not.
It's epitome.
That's not
No.
what he tweets.
Who?
John Rothstein.
It's
It's pronounced epitome. What is Yes, it is. What is happening right now?
all right. For those of you that are listening to the show live, go over to Twitter right now and tweet at us if it's pronounced.
Yeah, my fault.
Epitome or okay, that's all we need right now. Go into the college football playoff rankings.
I've never seen that word written down. Like, that's just one of those words I've never seen written down. I just
Hey, it's okay.
know
There's
the word.
there's
know
some-
the word.
There's some
Man
times.
just said epitome was like, no, you're wrong.
It's okay, Brady. There's some times, Brady, when I just spell out a word, I'm like, I've never had to spell out this word before, and I have no
Yes.
idea how. It's all good. It's all good.
Honestly, one of those things I've never seen written or spelled out.
Let's go over to the college football playoff rankings. Now, as I mentioned, there are, pretty much for the most part, none of this really matters aside from the top 10, mainly so the top 8. My first thing right off the bat is, not necessarily, I don't know if UCF has a chance, but I believe they should be over Michigan. Michigan only falls 3 spots after getting annihilated by Ohio State. Michigan has no chance of making the college football playoff. Now, we kind of talked about this with LSU in previous weeks, where LSU doesn't have a chance to make it. They shouldn't be at 7, give teams a better chance to leapfrog. UCF, they technically, realistically, still have a shot, but having Michigan in front of them at 7 makes no sense when Michigan has no chance to make it.
I think there's one reason that UCF didn't jump Michigan,
There you go.
and it's because of Mackenzie Milton. And you know, you feel for the guy, you know, all the prayers in the world for him, of course, but I think if he was still playing, you would see UCF at 7.
That's true. That's true. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna get into some fun scenarios now, guys, because right now
fun.
I like having a lot of fun here. Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia. No surprises there. Oklahoma, Ohio State. There was some question who would get 5, who would get 6. That's the top 6 as of right now. But now there has a chance for a lot of chaos to ensue, guys. So my first question I'm going to ask is, let's say Georgia loses to Bama this week. Oklahoma loses to Texas, and Ohio State loses to Northwestern. Do you think UCF, now granted, assuming that they beat Memphis, has any chance at all to crack that top 4 if all 4 of these outcomes happen?
Absolutely. And in fact, they should be the fourth team. If that really happens and all three of those teams go down, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's inevitable. I think it has to happen if that scenario does play out.
So now that would be an exciting case. Now, of course, we just talked about Mackenzie Milton, his injury. Most likely, it could affect them. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with their Memphis game. Now, let's say Georgia loses to Alabama. Like I said again, Clemson wins. So you're going to have Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson. Those are the three teams that are locks.
Yes.
Now, let's say you have Oklahoma and Ohio State, who both win their conference championship games. Who gets that final fourth spot?
I say the Sooners. I mean, I know they had a close game this year against Army, but for the most part, like you said, I think that offense has the best chance to give Bama a fight and really put up a fight of their own. Ohio State, again, they had a good game against Michigan. Their offense is pretty heavy, but you lose by, you barely beat Maryland. That could have very, very easily been a loss if that 2-point conversion was accurate. There's just been a lot of games this year where it's been probably a lot closer than it should have been, and I just think resume-wise and by the eye test, Oklahoma's a lot better of a team than Ohio State is.
Strength of schedule-wise, it goes to Oklahoma as well. Oklahoma's 28th, while Ohio State's 35th ranked for strength of schedule.
Yeah, and I think that I think that they're just going to be the best team to give Alabama a run for their money, and I think that just simply comes with their offense because, there's the cliche saying, defense wins games, defense wins championships, whatever you want to say. Ohio State has the better defense out of those two teams. But the issue is that Oklahoma's offense is that explosive that I think it has a chance to keep pace with Bama, even though Alabama is going to put up 1,000 points on Oklahoma's offense. I just think that realistically, Oklahoma is the only team that's going to be able to put up that many points against Bama's defense.
Now, Oklahoma, they've gotten lucky in the previous 4 weeks. 3 of their last 4 wins are by a combined 9 points.
Yeah.
So they've been in a lot of close games. Now, I do think, if that's what it comes down to, I think Oklahoma is going to get the edge because looking at it, you look at Ohio State's schedule. Aside from Michigan, their best win is a 1-point victory at Penn State. Now, Penn State, I believe, came in at 13 in the latest rankings, but I think the one thing that's going to separate the two is the fact that Oklahoma lost by 3 to Texas, whereas Ohio State lost by 30 to Purdue. Yeah. I think they're going to take into account how big the losses were, not necessarily, whose offense is better, whose defense is better, just overall, I think that. And then the fact as well that Ohio State had that 1-point win over Maryland where they shouldn't have won. It was just a bad throw by the quarterback, but who knows? We like chaos.
Yeah, but also I think there's a good argument in saying that Ohio State put up that many points on Michigan because out of all the Power 5 teams, Michigan had the number 1 defense in the country. I mean, I know Fresno State's up there or whatever, but I'm going to just keep Power 5 into consideration right now. That Michigan team is still a good football team. No disrespect to Northwestern, but I still think that Michigan's the number 2 team in the Big Ten Conference right now. You can make a case for number 1, but I'm not saying that after what just happened at Ohio State this past weekend. So with that being said, I think Ohio State's offense can put up points when they're on, but then the defense, we've seen them falter at times. So that's why I still think that this advantage goes to Oklahoma.
Now, here's time for another fun scenario. Let's say Georgia is able to beat Bama this week, and Oklahoma and Ohio State win their games. Then who's the top 4, you guys think?
Stays the same. Bama's in.
Same. Yeah.
So
Clemson, Notre Dame, Georgia, Bama.
Agreed.
I think a championship loss doesn't hinder Bama's performance through the regular season, which is what the majority of the playoff committee looks
By
at.
all means, drop them to 4.
Sure.
If you want to drop them 3 spots, drop them 3 spots. But they still, if they're not in the playoff and they lose
just
this
to
week,
give them the chance of winning it at the 4 seed.
there is no. Well, no.
The only
I'm
way
just
is-
saying that they would deserve to fall just because that's how this ranking works. Realistically, if you are ranking the best team in the country and Bama loses this week, Alabama should absolutely be the number 1 team. However, if they lose, based off of the way that these rankings work, they would have to drop a couple of spots, which is why they should drop no further than 4. And if they don't make it, then it's an absolute joke.
The only way they could fall out of the top 4 is if they somehow lost by like 40 points to Georgia,
Yes.
but that ain't going to happen.
No, there's no way.
Yeah, I think Bama's a guaranteed lock because you have one slip up, you're not going to fall out. And I don't even think they fall to 4. I think they fall to 3, the absolute max. I could see them falling to 2. I could see Clemson moving up, Bama falling to 2, then 3, 4. Pretty much stay in. Maybe flip-flop. Georgia moves up to 3, but there's a lot of situations that can happen. Clemson could go down to Pitt. Now, let's just say for whatever reason, Bama wins, Oklahoma wins, Ohio State wins, Clemson loses. Would Clemson fall out of the top 4 for their first loss of the season?
Look, here's the thing. I think, and this is no disrespect to Notre Dame because I've been trying to promote them all season long, saying that they're good and they deserve to be in. But there's only one team that could fall out if they were to lose a conference championship, and that'd be Notre Dame. Of course, they don't have one. But I just think that the strength of schedule, not even the strength of schedule, I think the eye test for me, which is what they do use the eye test in the college football playoff rankings. And I think of those
They come out and say that they use the eye test.
Yes, if you're to look at those top 4 teams right now, I think the eye test favors Bama, Clemson, and Georgia, not necessarily Notre Dame. Just because Notre Dame, their offense is not nearly as explosive as some of these other teams. Their defense is not as stout as some of these other teams. They are absolutely deserving to be a top 3 team, but I think the eye test might favor some of these other teams, which is why I think if there was an undefeated team that were to lose a conference championship and fall out, it'd be them. But obviously that's not the case. So basically my point is there is no reason for Bama, Clemson, and Notre Dame to not be ranked regardless of what happens this week. There's no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, because a lot of people, they were commenting for the Q&As, and a lot of people, especially on Twitter, they think this has the chance to happen. Do you think now, since Notre Dame's officially, they end the season undefeated, are they a 100% lock, would you say?
Yes, the FPI had them as a 99%, or the college football predictor had them as a 99% chance to make the playoffs. I don't think there's any way that they fall out. 12-0, you did everything they had to do. Plus, I mean, the Notre Dame, just the factor of who they are, they're in.
They absolutely deserve to be in. But are there, and I'm not saying there are, I'm simply asking, are there any scenarios where Notre Dame falls out?
I think
It'd be extreme, but are there?
I think the only scenario would be that just Oklahoma and Oklahoma's got the advantage because they're playing Texas, who's ranked, I think, top 15 or so. I got it right here.
Yeah, they're 14.
They're ranked 14. They have the advantage where they're going to play Texas at 14. Northwestern's ranked 21, but if Ohio State beats them, it's not going to be that impressive of a win. I don't think an Ohio State win over Northwestern would be enough where you can put them in and take Notre Dame out. Now, I think Oklahoma has a chance where they can potentially sneak in and potentially do something just because if they come out and Oklahoma beats Texas 60-10, you might have a strong case when you're putting them against Notre Dame.
So if you're saying what if Georgia beats Bama and Oklahoma beats Texas by 1,000,000?
Yeah. Then I think Notre Dame would fall out.
Is that a possibility?
I guess it's possible, but again, 99% chance. I mean, everybody at ESPN seems to think that there's no way, and they're locked in. I would
see.
Be shocked.
I'm going to ask you, Josh.
I haven't even seen potential outcomes and scenarios where Notre Dame falls.
Neither have I.
So I can't propose anything.
Now
to you
I know
about
this
that.
doesn't mean anything because it's whatever. But let's just say you take these 6 teams right there. Do you think that Notre Dame is one of the 4, or is one of the 4 best out of those 6 teams?
I do.
You do?
I do.
Who do you think the 2 teams they're better than?
I think they're better than Ohio State. I think as a team collectively on all sides of the ball, I think they're better than Ohio State. And I think it'd be close, but I would say Oklahoma. I think they're better than Oklahoma. Again, I think collectively they're much better.
All right. I'll give it here. I have some stuff to back this up. And spoiler, shocker, there might be a little bit of bias behind this, but I'm just going to say this year for Notre Dame's defense, 11th in the country in scoring defense, pass efficiency defense, they're 5th, touchdown passes allowed, 2nd in the country, yards per play allowed, 8th in the country. So their defense has been stout. I think they're the only FBS team this year to not allow 30 points in a game or something like that. They haven't allowed 30 points in a game this year. Offensively, look, the other 3 teams, let's just say it's Oklahoma that ends up winning. Oklahoma, Clemson, Bama, their offenses are better, and there's no question. Notre Dame's offensive coordinator, however, just was named a finalist for the Broyles Award, which is given to the nation's top assistant coach. He's an offensive coordinator. He just got nominated for that award. So
You're telling me it's not T. Martin?
That's what I'm telling you.
I'm shocked.
That's what I'm telling you, VK. So he's doing something right. So again, this happens every single time that they have a good year. People call them overrated. People say that they had a close win. They don't deserve it. Let them play it out. Just let them play Clemson. See what happens. If Notre Dame gets blown out, then this stuff's warranted. But let them actually play the games before everybody's ready to say Notre Dame, is overrated and doesn't deserve to be there at 12-0.
So there's still a lot that needs to be, a lot of games that have to happen, a lot of outcomes that are ready to happen. I'm going to turn to Twitter right now because I tweeted out asking our fans to ask us or tell us what they think our top 4 teams would be. Now I hear a little birdie in my ear, but I'm not sure exactly what that is. Rose Bowl season has, oh my goodness, Rose Bowl season has Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Lucas McKnight, Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Andrew Coster, Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Mitchell Williams, Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. Owen Tuckey, hopefully I said that right, he has Chattanooga, UTEP, UC Davis, and the 2008 Kansas Jayhawks basketball team. The women's team.
Gigamags.
Go Ags. My guy right there, UC Davis.
The UC Davis basketball team was at the airport when I landed in Indiana this past weekend.
UC Davis, the Ags football team has the most wins out of any Division I team in California.
0?
9 or 10 or something like that.
I thought they didn't have a team.
Well,
football?
Yeah.
UC Davis football?
Yeah, they're playing in the FCS playoffs right now.
Dude, I've literally been talking about that for like 3 years.
Are there like 26 teams that make the FCS playoffs?
I believe it's
Keelan Doss, Brady.
Oh, yes.
I believe it's 16. I think they have 16 teams.
They're a good
amount.
I am irate right now.
Riley Lewis has Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. So we had about, I think, 7 or 8 people I just named, and they all have the exact same top 4. So I guess the fans have spoken. A lot of people have spoken, but still, as I mentioned, plenty of football to be played. Now, we're going to talk about some of the news that has broken the college football playoff, or no, not the college football playoff, or the college football world. Now, I know the news that you guys are just dying to talk about, the news that the college football world wants us to discuss, the news that our fans are just waiting on the edge of their seats for, and that's Mack Brown going to North Carolina to coach. Yes.
It's just such a North Carolina hire, too. Like they're not going to go out there, they're not going to make a huge splash, but it's a good move. I mean, who else are you going to, you're not going to go get King, okay, they could have gotten Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't think he would say yes, but like, who else are you going to go get,
I guess it's a recruiting tactic. I mean, Mack Brown was once a successful coach,
yes,
however.
At North Carolina.
Yeah, that's true.
So.
Yeah, he was the coach back in from 1988 to 1997. Now, just listen to Mack Brown's coaching tenure. So he starts off at Florida State. Then he goes to Southern Miss, then to Memphis State, then to Iowa State. This is all as a player. So that's where he goes. Then he literally graduates Iowa State, becomes their offensive coordinator. Then in 82 becomes the quarterback coach for LSU.
Wait. He became their offensive coordinator right after graduating?
1979, he was their wide receiver. 1980, he was their offensive coordinator.
That's so cool.
Then 1983, Appalachian State head coach. 1984, the Oklahoma offensive coordinator. 1995, the Tulane head coach. 1998, the North Carolina head coach. Then in 1998, he became the Texas head coach. Then he spent about 5 years working for ESPN, and now he's back.
He's actually being inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame this upcoming week. And he's going to be coaching again. Also, I wanted to play this at the beginning of the segment, but you guys moved on too quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent.
You can't go wrong with Anchorman.
Yeah,
even though I can barely hear it. I don't know.
You know it's Anchorman, and even though you can't hear anything.
I don't know how I'm barely hearing it. But Mack Brown, he's taken his talents to North Carolina. I'm gonna miss him in the broadcast booth. I like when he broadcasts games, but hey, Mack Brown, welcome back to college football. Cliff Kingsbury, he got the can, and he's currently trying to find a new job. And according to our sources, he was spotted on the USC campus.
Yeah.
Enjoying a nice burger from the Habit. There's no story to it. He was just enjoying a meal at the Habit. Next.
Yeah,
no, I'm
that's
kidding.
disappointing.
Is this... Now, obviously, he's not going to become the head coach, but a potential offensive coordinator at SC who is now looking for an offensive coordinator, that's a very intriguing job for Cliff Kingsbury that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, so T. Martin got fired today, and he was the offensive coordinator before. The play calling was terrible under him.
Josh jumped in the pool today when he found out.
Yeah, I was so happy. No.
Wait, what?
But he was a really good recruiter. And I saw a report that said that he was also the wide receivers coach. And think about some of the guys that he's produced. Like, Adoree Jackson came into SC as a wide receiver and played offense his freshman year. And then a little bit later on, but not a whole lot.
What about Lyle's boy Juju?
But Juju Smith-Schuster, Nelson Aguilar, I believe he was there for Robert Woods and Marquise. He was there for Marquise. I think he was there when he recruited Robert Woods. Like, he's recruited some legit talent at USC, and he's put them into the NFL. So I also saw a report that said he would have been happy staying as a different role at USC, but the Trojans opted to not do that and just to completely fire him. I don't like that at all. But I understand it. Like, you can't have a former offensive coordinator on staff. This is the reason why they didn't hire Coach O. They offered the defensive coordinator job to Coach O. But
no, don't do it, Brady.
Don't do it.
I've already done it twice.
They offered the job to Coach O, but he said no. But it's kind of hard to have a guy who was in a position of power on your team no longer in that position. So guys think, oh, well, what if he was still in charge? So I get it. I get why they didn't rehire T. Martin as something else. But they really cleaned house today, and it just makes a whole lot of sense for me to really to see USC go after Cliff Kingsbury. And I know people are going to try to go after him in the NFL because these college offenses, like you see in the Big 12, are now being adopted in professional football. But if USC does not at least try to hire Cliff Kingsbury, even if they're unsuccessful, USC needs to go wholeheartedly after this man, because if they do, that's a sign that this program wants to move on.
And you know what? If they can find a way to land Cliff Kingsbury, keep in mind, this is a guy who has produced some really, really good offensive players, most notably, of course, Patrick Mahomes. But if he comes into USC, I saw this somewhere today, just to really think about what's on paper for him, that is a really good offense he would inherit if he came into USC. Between a guy like Tyler Vaughn, who I think has to be maybe one of the most underappreciated receivers in the country, and then a running back core of guys like...
Well, think about the receivers he's going to have.
Right, so between Vaughns and Pittman and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then you have a running back core with Carr and Malapai, and even a guy like Stepp who started to emerge just last week.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a chance. And I still think JT Daniels has a chance to be good, especially after what he showed against Notre Dame. That has a chance to be a really good offense if you can land Cliff Kingsbury.
With a competent play caller and with somebody who will develop these quarterbacks, this could be a scary offense. I mean, look at the guys that he's had at Texas Tech, even though he hasn't had a whole lot of success there. First of all, they put up a lot of points. But look what he was able to do with Nick Shimonek at Texas Tech. Look what he was able to do this year. He had Davis Webb for a time. He had Patrick Mahomes as his starting quarterback. And look at Patty Mahomes now. Eating ketchup, just leading the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm so upset this guy gets free. If anyone deserves a Heinz ketchup endorsement, it's me.
It's
he got
a Whataburger ketchup
absolutely
endorsement.
Blake.
Blake, you deserve a Holiday Inn Cinnabon breakfast
I do.
endorsement.
Well, Blake, become the MVP of the National Football League. And then maybe you'll
become a better athlete.
So I have to become Drew,
Period.
I have to become Drew Brees.
Oh, I see.
I agree. I think Drew Brees is the MVP.
Thank you.
A different topic. But
Now,
Andrew Luck for Heisman.
So a lot going on at SC, which is very interesting. They keep Clay Helton, but they pretty much clear staff everyone else. As of now, they still have their defensive coordinator. Not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah, what is that?
But the last bit of news, now maybe this one could be a tie-in to SC as well. And Lyle mentioned this, I think it was today. It looks like Khalil Tate is going to be taking his talents to somewhere other than Tucson. So if this report is true, if this truly does happen, where would be some good landing spots? The first one that I said, guys, was UCLA, because him under Chip Kelly, I think that has the potential to be scary. I'm sure he's going to be looking at a lot of schools. I'm sure he's going to be the number one guy out there. He's like the number one recruit all of a sudden again. But where would Khalil Tate fit? Where would you like to see him go?
Man,
ASU?
if he was at UCLA,
If he was at ASU?
There's
would
no
be
way.
cool, but
There's
if-
no way U of A is going to grant him permission. To go
there
to the
is
Pac-12
no
school.
way he goes anywhere in conference. Absolutely zero chance.
okay, but here's the thing about that is I know schools try to block it, but there are ways you can still find your way out of it if you're that motivated.
Yeah, and they're not letting him go in conference. I can almost guarantee it.
Okay, so if it's not in conference, I'm trying to think of some of the top landing spots he could go. I mean, it's tough to say because there's so many out there. Maybe somewhere in the Big 12 or somewhere like that.
I think
where he
that's
could-
realistic.
Yeah.
Oklahoma?
What about like a West Virginia to sort of fill a Will Grier type player, except he's more mobile?
Yeah, I could see. I mean, I could see something like that for sure. I just think, like Blake said, I mean, maybe it doesn't happen, but if it was Josh Kelly and Khalil Tate in a backfield, that would be pretty incredible under Chip Kelly. But this just adds another name to the quarterback list of transfers. This has to be maybe the most lit year of quarterback transfers we're ever going to see, between potentially Tate, between Hurts, between Wimbush, between potentially Rozier and Kelly Bryant. That's unreal. I mean, those are 5 starting caliber quarterbacks.
One of them should come to ASU.
Yeah.
One of them should.
I'm down.
But then again, you guys got to think that we're going to be seniors next year, and we're probably not going to be willing to wait around for these guys.
No.
Yeah, that's
Well, Lyle's not a fan, so he doesn't care.
No, but no, we'll
that's
be,
true. Very true.
I'm a fan. They're my second favorite team. I always say that. They're my second favorite team.
As they say in Ricky Bobby Lyle, if you ain't first, you're last.
Was anyone else going to add on to that, or are you just going to sit here in silence after?
We're just gonna sit here in silence.
This is like the third time that's happened today.
Hey, because it's been so long since our last show. We last recorded last Sunday.
Oh, oops.
We're out of the groove.
It's my show. I'm sorry, guys. Lyle and I need to take more responsibility.
What's the new name of the show?
The Josh Schaefer and Lyle Goldstein show with Brady Klein and BHBHBH.
All right. Well, speaking of BH, let's talk about some bets and transition into the final Blake's bets of the season. Guys, it's come to an end because next show we do is going to be a bowl-only show, so most likely the spreads aren't going to be out yet. Maybe I'll tweet on the Twitter account the Blake's bets that we can do. But guys, for the year, I'm 29 for 60, which means it's this week that I'm going to put myself at over 500. Not a whole lot of games, though, this week, so I had to be very selective which ones I wanted to go with. The first Blake's bet that I'm going to go with is Buffalo over Northern Illinois. Buffalo's favored by 4 points. I like Buffalo in that game. UCF's playing Memphis. UCF's favored by 3. I like UCF in that game. Clemson and Pittsburgh, I like the over of 53. Fresno State and Boise State. Boise State's favored by 3, but I like Fresno State with those 3 points. And the final game is UAB and Middle Tennessee with an over of 45 points. That's it. Those are my 5 Blake's bets of the week, guys. My last ones of the year.
Is that like one Power 5 bet you have going on in there?
I think so. Let me. Sorry, I'm sending a message right now. So, hold on.
Well, it's not your show anymore. It doesn't matter.
That's true. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to host anymore.
Josh, you can edit the show too.
Now,
I'm out.
yes, I am down for that.
I'm out.
I am down for that. Now we are going to open up.
Do you guys think Colin Cowherd edits his show?
They just do it live.
Now,
They
guys,
cut live.
We
They have their
are
own producers.
We are going to open up the phone lines for Q&As, but it's going to be a very fun Q&A, guys, because the first caller we're going to have is a fan that was actually at College Game Day this week that was spotted, not only on television, but that was spotted by another fan with a Harris highlight sign.
So there were 2?
No, there was one sign that was seen on, you saw it on TV, but another fan that was at Game Day took a picture of the person with the sign.
Wow.
And we were able, with our interns working the hard hours, they were able to track down this fan, and he's going to be calling into the show, hopefully.
Got to give some love to the interns. They're unpaid and they're locked in a shed in Blake's basement.
If you would like to intern for the Harris Highlight Show, send us your resume on Twitter, slide into our DMs, show us the resume, not paid.
How do you have a basement when your apartment's on the 4th floor?
I was hoping someone would hear that. Blake, you want me to create a portal so people can apply for it?
Yeah, sure.
A submission portal?
Why not? But if you're listening to the show right now and you want to call in to ask us a question, the number is 602-496-5156. Once again, that number is 602-496-5156. Have a conversation with BK while he picks up the phone line and we answer.
All right, how about this?
questions.
When I answer the phone, tell me your favorite stadium food so I know you're actually listening.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Right there. Now, while we wait for either Matthew to call in or for other people to call in, I'm going to go up on the YouTube Q&A and I'm going to take some questions down. It's
been a while since you've done them on YouTube, hasn't it?
It's been a while now. This was one question I noticed recently, and I want to answer this as well because I know I got some criticism for it. I forget who it came from because I don't have it up right now, but it's, what is the best college football game you've ever been to? I'm not sure if we've answered this on the show before, but what's the best college football game you've ever been to?
Josh?
I've had some really good college football experiences, but I think, there are 2 for me, and it was when ASU upset Washington here, and we all stormed the field, and then when USC upset number 3 Stanford and stormed the field. I didn't storm the field in that one, but I think that those were 2 of the best overall games. I thought USC Notre Dame in the rain a couple years ago was cool. I thought the 8 touchdowns for Kalen Ballage was cool. There's been some really good games here. You know what? The ASU UCLA game at the Rose Bowl back in 2015, before we were students, I was at that game. That was a lot of fun too. But I think that USC Stanford and ASU Washington
Was that the Balaj push game?
Yes, that was the Balaj scrum game.
Man, favorite game. I'll tell you what is not my favorite game, and that was the national championship I attended between Notre Dame and Alabama. That would rank dead last. But I'm gonna kind of do what Josh did. My favorite game, I'd say, is a toss-up between Kalen Balazs's 8-touchdown game against Texas Tech and when ASU beat Washington and we stormed the field.
But we'll never see that again.
No,
8 touchdowns in a game,
ever.
we will never see
From
that.
a
Only like 150 yards though total.
From a running back. Even I think it was closer to 200, but yeah. Favorite experience. Okay, so I guess we have a little time for a story before we have callers come in, but just a quick.
I'd like to be able to answer it before I can, take phone calls.
No, yeah, it's a super quick one. Basically, when I was 11, Notre Dame played Washington in Seattle, and Notre Dame won by a lot. I got Golden Tate's gloves after the game, and he became my favorite player from then on out. And who does he get drafted by? The Seattle Seahawks, who are my favorite team. So that's how I became just about the world's biggest Golden Tate fan. So that's probably the coolest experience I've ever had at a college football game. But Brady, I'll toss it to you. I don't want to take up all the time.
Kalen Balazs had 185 total yards in that game.
Okay.
It's so tough for me to say some of these ASU games because I'm shooting and working all of them, so I don't get to experience it and enjoy it as much. But this ASU U of A game from this past weekend, the 19-point comeback was one of the craziest games and atmospheres I've been around. But I think the coolest game ever was Ohio State-Michigan in Ohio State when I was 10 years old. So that's got to be number one for me just because of the magnitude of that game.
Blake, I want you to know that if you don't answer this question appropriately, you're off my show.
My favorite game I've ever attended is the 2017 Rose Bowl between USC and Penn State. It's something I would have said last week at this time because I have a brand new answer.
There's no
the
way.
2018. Now this is the thing. Overall
I
better.
through the glass.
Overall better game without a doubt the USC Penn State game. But overall, like most memorable,
That's
biggest
fair.
experience, it's gonna be this one because one, it's in a hostile environment at U of A. It's ASU. It's U of A. It's the Territorial Cup. We were like 10 rows from the top. There were these fans behind us that were being.
I've heard all about these fans
They
from
were
my
being
roommates.
they were being complete jerks all game. They were just saying some really nasty things to us, coming from children as well. There's some 11-year-old that was saying some stuff that you would see from like Tanner in the Bad News Bears movie. That hits all that kind of stuff, and it was just absolutely awful. So the fact that they were able to come back. They were down 19 points, I believe, in the fourth quarter. They come back. It's the fact they get the interception, they get the fumble. U of A misses the field goal, which everyone thought it was good. And it was just the emotions of going through that entire game. Overall, best experience. That's as of right now, that's what it's going to be. Best game, USC Penn State. But one that I'm probably going to remember the most is going to be this one.
Well, I get all that, but hostile environment, U of A usually gets less fans than or as many fans as UCLA does at football games.
I think Brady can attest to me on this. First off, the stadium was probably 95% packed.
Really?
It was cool.
My guess is that stadium was about 85-15 in regards to U of A to ASU fans.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So last year when U of A played at ASU, there seemed to be a lot more U of A fans in Tempe.
That's because nobody wants to drive down to Tucson.
I don't blame you, but the discrepancy between the fan bases seemed a lot more home favored when U of A was playing, if that makes sense.
It's because people want to come to our city. It's nice.
Ours is right next to the airport. There's good food, and it doesn't smell like a dumpster.
I also don't think anybody's flying from Tucson to Phoenix.
I meant just as a whole.
Yeah.
Fans
All right,
as a
everyone.
whole.
Our flight time is about 38 seconds.
You take off, you can see it out of the front window. Like, they don't even have beverage service. They don't even let you go to the bathroom.
But, I mean, overall, this was just an outstanding game from beginning to finish. I had a fantastic time. It was great. Before the game started, they had, the Pac-12 studio out there filming, their little pregame thing, and I pretty much went in. I stood right behind where they were doing, the interviews, and I was getting on TV, and it's just me and, 30... I'll share you guys the video in the group chat, but it's just, me and a crowd of about 30 Arizona fans. There's a bunch of kids, and I'm just getting booed. Everyone's just, trying to put U of A gear on me. And it was overall just a very pleasant time. It was funny. At the end of the game, we got into a little heated argument with a U of A fan that was claiming, "Oh, you guys aren't going to be in the Rose Bowl this year, blah, blah, blah. Let me know when you guys ever see a Rose Bowl." Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe U of A
has never been in a
U of
Rose
A's
Bowl.
never been in a
the
Rose
only
Bowl.
Pac-12 team that's never been in a Rose Bowl. So it was kind of fun, having all those arguments.
Oregon
back and
State's
forth.
been in a Rose Bowl.
That's true.
So that was a lot of fun. I think there's a problem with the phone line right now because something's going on. It says the phone line's busy. I'm going to try to figure that out.
The phone number you gave out, we have 2 phone lines in here in the studio. The phone number you gave out, that phone isn't actually working, so I just sent you the backup phone number.
All right.
It's with an 8 at the end instead of a 6.
All right, I'm going to enter that one right now.
So I'll read it out since it's my show. The new number, everybody, is 602-496-5158 for all the people listening to my show and Lyle's show. Look at that. Ring-a-ding-ding. My show works. 602-496-5158 for everybody out there. Blake's running our Twitter. He's our new social media intern. Things are going very well at the Josh Schaefer and Lyle Goldstein show with Brady Klain and BH.
Well, Josh, I think I'm just going to let you take this the rest of the way.
So we do have somebody on the phone line right now, Blake. Brady, go ahead. Who do we have?
No, I know exactly who we have, Josh, because we have Matthew on the phone with us. Matthew, how's your night going?
Matthew, how's your night going, man?
It's going really well.
Hey, give a big round of applause for Matthew for calling into the show really quickly after getting the phone number right.
Yeah, that was spot on. So props to Matthew. So Matthew, a lot to ask you about. But the first question we have is, how was the game day experience? Now, for those of you that don't know, Matthew was at College game day for the big Ohio State-Michigan game. Now, for game day atmospheres, I'm sure that's one of the better ones. And I don't know if you've been to game day before, but that experience on Saturday, at least for us who have never really gotten to experience game day like that, what was it like?
Well, it was really cool. It was really muddy because it had rained here the night before, which made me almost reluctant to go out. And then I'm like, no, I drew up the big sign. I'm gonna go out there. But the crowd is huge. The crowd is awesome. Both fans of both teams are really in it because Ohio State Michigan is such a big rivalry and with such high stakes. And while I was never up close except for the one flyover shot that my dad sent you guys, it was really cool. One young kid actually came up to me and asked if I was you, Blake.
I love it. Now
You got fans everywhere, Blake.
Yeah, I was gonna.
They didn't ask if it was me or Lyle.
Or me.
well, they said him, so I'm assuming.
So yeah, that's me or Lyle. Wait, so who are you a fan of, my man?
I am an Ohio State fan. I'm an Ohio State
OH.
student.
Oh, nice. Okay.
IO.
Now, I'm sure you guys saw this on Twitter, but Matthew's actually been to 10 of the Big Ten stadiums out there.
Oh, is that Matthew? Yes.
Him and his dad. So, Matthew, really quickly, for those of you, or for the fans that haven't seen, which 10 Big Ten stadiums have you and your dad visited so far?
Well, obviously Ohio State, Michigan State, Purdue. That's our only road loss, but that wasn't this year. That was a long time ago. Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Nebraska, Penn State, Maryland.
Now, Ohio State aside, of the other 9, which was your favorite environment?
Wisconsin was pretty cool. Penn State was pretty cool. I'd say probably Penn State because that was only a few years ago, so I remember that a little bit better. The goal was to, before I graduated from high school, go to all 11 Big Ten stadiums, note what number I used there, because Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland weren't in the Big Ten yet. But I would say probably Penn State.
Did you happen to go during a whiteout game, or was it just a regular game?
It was the 2014 Ohio State Championship season, so that was almost certainly a whiteout.
All right, now, Matthew, before we go, as an Ohio State fan, I'm going to turn this to you. Why do you think Ohio State should be one of the 4 teams that makes the college football playoff?
I'm going to disappoint you. Objectively, I actually think Oklahoma should be in.
I love it. I respect that. I respect that. But I still love to hear, though, from your perspective on Ohio State, if you think, since you think Oklahoma is more deserving, but you could still make a case then for us if a lot of things go their way, why Ohio State should convince a lot of people to make the Final Four playoff.
Well, their win over Michigan, which thoroughly surprised me. I was expecting the game to go almost exactly the opposite. Dwayne Haskins is a boss. There's a lot of offensive weapons, great coaching staff. Any other reason? It's just the loss against Purdue is just quite the thorn in the side.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be an exciting time, that's for sure, if they can get in.
I noticed you didn't say you've been to IU. Any thoughts of going down there in the
boy.
next year or so, couple years?
No.
Well, I'll be studying abroad next year, so that won't be able to happen.
Where are you studying?
In London.
It's just a nice way, Brady, to say he has no intentions of ever going to IU. But Matthew,
Bloomington. It's a great place.
we appreciate you getting the sign. We're glad that your dad was able to get a photo of you on TV, because I know I was trying to watch and I was telling my parents to watch, but they couldn't figure it out. So we're glad he was able to get it. Shout out to you for making the sign, and hopefully you and your dad can make it to all the Big Ten stadiums in the upcoming years, because that'd be quite the accomplishment, hitting them all up. And shout out to you, and best of luck to Ohio State this weekend.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You
Have
do
a
the
good night,
same,
my man.
All right, Josh. Well, I'm just going to let you wrap up the show. But no, that's honestly cool. I mean, I do the thing with my parents about going to the MLB stadiums. I've gone to 27 out of 30, and this is like a fun tradition to do, especially with your dad. So he's been to 10 out of, the 14 now. He's only got 4 more to go. Some tough ones, though, to get to, but that's just an awesome, fun tradition. If you're going to go to stadiums in a conference, the Big Ten, I think, is the second best to do it in. And he's seen some pretty good games so far.
What do you think the first is? SEC?
SEC.
Yeah.
I think Big Ten overall maybe has more, but I think SEC has the best.
I think Big Ten has more memorable ones, because going to the Big House, that's special. Going to the Horseshoe, that's special. Going to Penn State, that's special. Nebraska in the middle of nowhere, that's special. Whereas you go to LSU, all right, that's just another big, crazy stadium.
Yeah.
You go to Alabama, another big, crazy stadium. I think the SEC has more showmanship in their stadiums, but I think the Big Ten has better stadiums to go to.
So that was awesome. Once
I'm
again,
obviously biased towards Big Ten.
Shout out to Matthew for the awesome Harris highlight sign that was seen on College Game Day. And also, shout out, unfortunately, the phone lines are going to be closed because we got to go into the pick'em, so Brady's going to have to do that. But shout out to the other fan that spotted Matthew in the stands, or in the group out there. What's going on right now? Is there someone? Do I need to check my text message? I don't know. What's going on?
Do you want to talk to Andrew today? I think we kind of have to talk to Andrew.
Oh, is that Andrew? Oh, okay. Andrew always has a fantastic question for us, so we can definitely get Andrew on. Is Andrew on right now, Brady? Andrew is on. Andrew, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, man. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, my first question is, Andrew, how in the world did your fantasy team lose to a guy that hasn't set his lineup once all season?
Well, because Amari Cooper decided to get 38 points. My 2 best guys in Todd Gurley and Adam Thielen were on bye. Or no, not Adam Thielen. Tyreek Hill were on bye. So, and Amari Cooper went off. Dak Prescott went off for him. I really don't know. It's embarrassing. But hey, I'm still second in the league, so it's not the end of the world. I get Gurley back and Tyreek Hill back this week, so now I got to try and make a late push.
Yeah, I need to make a late push as well, because I've been slacking these previous weeks. But Andrew, what amazing question do you have for us tonight?
My question is how worried should Clemson be about Pittsburgh, considering that the last time they played, when Pittsburgh was undefeated and Clemson was ranked in the top 3, it was a very disappointing loss. And also the fact that Clemson did give up over 500 passing yards this past weekend to South Carolina. God, that was brutal to watch. But should Clemson people be concerned? Because a lot of people are saying we're a lot for the playoff. I don't know, man. It's kind of a little bit of concern after seeing that on defense.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the box score, and Clemson, they allowed over a combined 600 total yards to South Carolina, which was absolutely, I thought that was shocking. A few weeks ago, when I was looking at who Clemson had a chance of playing, the one team I looked at and said, I don't think this is the team that can beat them the most, but the team where I was like, I think this team has the best shot, that was Pitt. But over the last few weeks, how Clemson's just been playing so good. I think that Clemson fans, they should be potentially concerned, but at this point, I don't think so. I think Clemson is playing like the second best team in the country right now, and I think literally the only team that has a chance of stopping them at this moment is Alabama. So Pitt, I think the spread in the game is like 25.5. I didn't make it one of Blake's bets because I didn't want to, jinx anything, but I personally think for Clemson, this is going to be a game that they shouldn't worry about. But then that's me saying something about Clemson, which means it's going to be the complete opposite.
Well, did you say to take the under in the bets? I didn't hear that part when you were saying
I decided to leave them off this week in regards to jinx anything.
You guys say to take the under, so then we'll cover the spread.
All right, I'll give Clemson the under. But Andrew, I'm just going to turn this to you. But before we go, as a Clemson fan, how worried are you for this game against Pitt?
I want to say I'm not too worried, but in my back of the head, in my back of my mind, I'm just it's. This is the last time. This is the only game that I've witnessed Clemson lose in person, like when we played Pittsburgh last time. And so, it's definitely just brings back those memories. And they've got a lot of guys back from that team. They've still got 6 guys from that defense that forced 5 turnovers or something in that game. Thankfully, no James Conner. Kind of wish they had Nathan Peterman still, because now we have learned that was just a fluke. They played well that game.
Really, I thought he's the greatest quarterback of all time. Am I the only one who's saying that?
Boy.
Oh yeah, but
Goat.
They've definitely are a good team. What's their coach Pat Narduzzi's done a good job of now getting them to this point where they're now playing in an ACC championship game. So, in my back of my head, I think definitely we're gonna have to play better than last week on defense. But then again, I do also realize that I think that was the 3rd most total yards on offense we had last week in Clemson history. So if our defense doesn't show up again, at least our offense can hopefully bail us out.
All right, Andrew. Now, my one quick final question for you: do you have any intention on going to either of the Clemson playoff games should they make it?
Actually, I would probably try to go to both. Definitely, if we make the national championship. I went to the 2015 Orange Bowl when we beat Oklahoma. I went to when we won the national championship down in Tampa against Alabama. And those are all definitely really fun games I'll never forget. So definitely would love to try and go again. And my parents said if I do win one of our the free student lottery tickets for the national championship or one of the bowl games, they said they would fly me out to Santa Clara for the national championship.
Well, if you end up going to, I think most likely if it's going to be the 2-3 matchup in the Orange Bowl versus Notre Dame, you potentially might run into Lyle there. He's been kind of speaking of potentially heading down there. So if we have that Notre Dame Clemson matchup, though, there might have to be some trash talk going on a show or through Twitter, because I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun for you too. But
yes, please,
Andrew. Thank you so much again for calling in. Now it's our last show in studio for this semester. So thanks for aside from next week we're doing a ball show, but that's not really cultural related. But Andrew, thanks for all the great questions. And best of luck to Clemson. I'm sure I'll be talking to you very soon in the Dream Team DMs.
Oh, you got that right, man. By the way, Lyle, you better hope it's not raining this time when we play y'all.
Tell me about it.
Last time.
Tell me about it.
All right, Andrew. Have a good night, man.
All right, thank you. You too, guys. Go Tigers.
All right, so now the phone lines are officially closed. However, before we go into the pick'ems, we're going to have our Northwestern expert, Peter, hopefully call into the show. Hopefully has the right number. So we're waiting for that call. Oh, is he already on? Brady kind of just dipped behind. So we're going to have one final call with Pete, who's going to talk about Northwestern for this upcoming week, and then we're going to dive deep into the pick'ems. So how's your night going, guys?
He's right on deck. He's He's hitting the bat against the cleats, and he's walking up to the plate.
Peter,
what's his walk-up song? What should we play?
I don't know. Peter, how's your night going, my man?
Well, I'm listening to you guys, so you know it's a great one.
Oh, that is fantastic. Peter, now, we got Northwestern coming up this week in the Big Ten Championship. Now, when you were on, I believe Northwestern hadn't clinched yet. I think they were going into their game against Notre Dame, if I'm mistaken, but there was still a potential for them to make it. They finally made it. So I guess my first question is, are you going to Indy to see them play Ohio State?
Well, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but actually an anonymous donor contacted the athletic department and offered to buy tickets for every single Northwestern student who wanted to go to the game.
Wow.
They sold out of all Northwestern tickets available
In like
for Northwestern.
29 hours. 29 hours.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So about 45% of the student body will be in Indianapolis for the game.
Man, I hope they win.
That's awesome.
I really hope they win.
Me too.
Shout out to
How big? What's the capacity or the enrollment at Northwestern?
Undergraduate is 8,000.
That's it?
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's
That's
kind
still
of
good.
Here I am
Cool.
thinking it's just going to be like 30,000 Northwestern students behind that place, and now it's going to be like 4,000.
Come on, that's still pretty cool.
That's-
what's
still-
the graduate enrollment? I know that there's a lot of graduates there, right?
Yeah, it's about 20,000.
Yeah, I was going to say there's more. It's more at USC.
I
too.
wonder if Chris Cadeau's going to be there.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe
that-
our good friend Chris
that-
started at ASU and then went to Northwestern.
That's definitely awesome in BK's hometown of Indy. So Peter, I don't know if you got a question for this week, or you just want to give your 2 cents and thoughts on Northwestern's chances this week against Ohio State.
Oh, well, I think we have a fantastic chance. I mean, do you guys not agree? Ohio State, first of all, let's be honest now. They have one good week against Michigan, and suddenly they're the bee's knees. Guys, this is a team that almost lost to Maryland. Probably should have lost to Maryland if Maryland's QB could complete just a complete 2-yard pass. This team lost to Purdue, which, by the way, we did beat Purdue at Purdue under the lights in the biggest game in the history of August of 2018. No other game matched the competitiveness or the intensity of that game. As you now know, big fan contingent coming out. We have the coach of the year in the Big Ten, and Pat Fitzgerald.
I was
one of the
very
greatest-
wrong on my preseason prediction for coach
You
of
were
the year.
very
by the way.
wrong.
Yeah.
On Scott Frost.
Jeez, man.
No,
Yeah,
Peter, I'll
I
back
mean,
you
hey.
up on that. I'll back you up on the Ohio State thing.
Yeah,
Dude,
and
the
speaking
way
of
he
Scott
says
Frost,
everything just makes me laugh. I talked to this guy with him talking like this all summer.
I'm ready to run through the wall right now and just like go put it all on Northwestern to win because he's just convincing me about this. This is fantastic. Peter, just keep going. You don't stop while you're hot. Keep going.
well, if we want to talk about defense, Northwestern are a very underrated defense. If you look, they just announced the Big Ten all-defensive team today. Northwestern had about, it was obviously dominated by Michigan, a lot of great players on Michigan, I'll admit it. Devin Bush, Rashawn Gary, first-teamers, no doubt. But there was about 4 Northwestern players on all 3 teams. Ohio State, I believe only 2. So not only do we have a better overall defense, but better players on defense. Guys like Joe Gaziano, Patty Fisher. These are guys that are going to be playing on Sundays one day, but nobody hears about them because they go to Northwestern. Haskins is a good quarterback, don't get me wrong. But I think the thing is, they peaked last week. I think we can all sort of agree on that. It's going to be tough to match the intensity of playing, in Columbus against your rival with a chance, go to Big Ten championship and keep your college playoff hopes alive and ruin your opponents. They peaked last week. And as crazy as it might sound, it's a little bit of a down week for them, saying, oh, it's Northwestern, it's small, they're the color purple. All of these certain things are definitely going through their heads right now. And Northwestern's just going to come in calm as a cucumber.
Now, okay, that's another
It's
thing.
cool as a cucumber. but
No,
whatever.
he said calm all summer long too. I've heard that a couple times. Now, Pete, you bring up the defense, and you and I both know that Dwayne Haskins has an absolute cannon. So how do you expect Northwestern to be able to shut down Dwayne Haskins in the offense?
That's a great question. Now, our secondary had a lot of injuries the last few weeks. Our number 1 corner, Montre Hardage, has been out. Our number 2 cornerback has been out. Our starting safety has been out. So 3 of our top 4 defensive backs have not played the last 2 to 3 weeks. And while that might seem, obviously like a bad thing, we're getting them on a little bit of rest. They're going to be ready to go. And listen up, Montre Hardage, if you check, the PFF stats, he's the best cornerback in the conference. And I don't believe it's particularly close. So he can be able to, do some shutdown. It's going to be tough. If Haskins can use that cannon and really elevate the ball over the top of the defense, it's going to be tough. But I think the running game can easily neutralize with the linemen they have for Northwestern, guys like Ernest Brown, Gaziano I mentioned, Sam Miller, Alex Miller, Jordan Thompson. They have a very underrated defensive line that I think can neutralize the running attack. It's going to be, like you said, stopping Haskins with the deep balls over the top.
Shout out to Montre Hardage because I knew the name sounded familiar. That's because 2 years ago I made a highlight video for him. So from what I remember, he was a very nice guy.
Oh yeah.
So shout out to him. Now, Peter, before we let you go, we got to get your final score prediction.
That's a great question.
Thank
For
you.
that, I will check out the Daily Northwestern this coming
Oh.
Friday. It's going to be a great game day feature. Guys, wonderful editors up there. Guys like my guy Ben Pope, Cole Paxton, Joseph Wilkinson, Ellen Brockway, Jonah Dillon. Great staff that have been covering the team all year.
Shout out to Ella
I'd
Brockway. She
recommend
follows me
reading
on
their
Twitter.
stuff.
What was that?
Oh, we lost him.
No, Josh, you just started talking. Go ahead, Pete.
Yeah. What?
Go ahead.
Oh, I don't know. It's just, classic Josh interrupt us like that, thinking it's the show when it's
It's
clearly...
a broadcaster's ego.
Clearly. We all know the hierarchy. Obviously, BH is number one.
Oh,
think DK
Peter,
number two.
wow.
And it's great on the phone line. It's great with the editing.
Yeah.
Truly
Fantastic.
stupendous. Then it's Lyle, because, Lyle's the clear de corso of the show. You never know what he's going to say.
But
And,
Pete, I thought we
Emma's gonna
established earlier today that this was our show now. This is mine and Lyle's show.
I heard that, and I was just like, somebody, get this man's ego in check. This man has been having too much power for too long. You know what I mean?
Oh, God.
I
You're going
mean,
to
just
rally
the-
up some people in the comments now, and there's going to be division in this studio.
All right, so I
think
guess
the fact that Pete just pubbed his whole news department was the best thing about
So-
this.
we will check out his post. We'll
so
check out
we're
the
not
article.
we're not getting a score prediction because we're all, I don't know how this is possible, going to somehow access the Northwestern student paper, I guess, this upcoming Friday to get Pete's score prediction.
I like.
Hey,
We'll do it.
what?
get a link to it and tag the Twitter. We'll share it out
We'll
there.
do. So, Pete, thanks for calling in. I know it's late over there. Have an amazing time this weekend in Indianapolis. If you have any questions about what to do there, hit up Brady. I'm sure
Yeah.
he'll provide the best food spots and the best places to go. Send us some photos. I'm sure you're going to be talking to Josh, but just have a good time over there.
There's this burger place called McDonald's right next to the stadium. Gotta check it out. Real
Oh,
good quality.
Isn't there a White Castle next to the stadium too?
No,
Oh, I
we
thought
don't
there
have White
was.
Castle in Indy. There might be one somewhere, but I've never
Oh, my
seen
God.
White
Who
Castle.
cares?
All right, let's move on.
All right, Pete. Have yourself a good night, brother.
All right, have a great one, guys.
See ya, Pete. It's always good talking to you. And you know what? I think you're number one.
All right, Josh, that's enough out of you.
All right, boys. All right, guys. Now it is time to go into the pick'ems. Now we got about 8 minutes to get through the final pick'ems of the year, guys. Now next week when we do our bowl episode, the bowl pick'ems are going to be separate because that's who wants to include 40 random games into this. So these are our final pick'ems of the year. So there's some random games thrown in here just to make it a little more exciting. But coming in first as of right now for our group on ESPN is a Q ratings with 93 points.
That is blasphemous.
And there, we were waiting for it. Brady, get that music lined up and ready to
I
go.
got one
because-
more soundbite that I didn't get to use for the Q&A because I was too busy.
Well, I can't even hear it right now. So do you want to play it now or
Yeah,
do I
I
have to
wanna play
keep
it now.
talking?
Remember, there are no stupid questions, just stupid people.
Oh, boy. maybe next time, Brady. But cue that music. Get it ready to go. Now, before we start our pick'ems, it's time to talk about our pick'em rankings.
Oh, please be in first still.
Now, is the music playing? Because I can't hear it, so
Yeah,
maybe it's
yeah,
just me.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
playing.
Josh and I are
All
doing
right.
jazz hands.
All right, in last place with 93 points is Lyle.
What?
In
Oh, man.
second
L.
to in second to last place is myself with 94. Well, I don't know why I just don't say fourth place or third place. I don't know why I go like last. In second place with 95 is Ja Brady.
What?
And
Why'd you do that to me?
And in first with 97, a 2-point lead is Josh. Guys, I believe we have 13 final games to get to this week. As I mentioned, we have about 6-7 minutes, so let's get through these as quickly as we can. The first game is Akron at South Carolina.
This is a real tough one, boys. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to take the Gamecocks.
Ditto. Got South Carolina.
Let's go, Cox.
I like the Cox. Marshall at Virginia Tech.
I'm taking Va Tech to bounce back after last week's loss. Wait, no, they won last week. They won in overtime.
If Virginia Tech wins, they are officially bowl eligible.
Well, I think the Hokies are going bowling.
Streak's going to continue. I got Virginia Tech.
They're going to do the hokey pokey and turn themselves around. They're going to get a win this week.
I like Virginia Tech to remain bowl eligible. Florida State, after 36 years, they are officially, according to Andrew, bowl ineligible. Now, the funny thing is, this is what me and the guys were doing after the U of A game because they were bowl ineligible. But then I realized we're doing the war chant. No one knows what exactly we are doing. Oh, here's a good one, guys. Norfolk State at Liberty. Not sponsored by Liberty.
I hate this show.
Well, guys, I've got my American pride. I love freedom, so I'm taking Liberty at home this week.
Blake just ruined it for me. Norfolk State.
Liberty.
The Mack title featuring Northern Illinois and
Is this
Buffalo.
on a Tuesday?
It should be.
It's probably on a Tuesday. Oh, boy. This is a toss-up for me. I'm going to go with Buffalo.
It's on a Friday, by the way.
I'm going to go with Buffalo because... Well, because why not?
No, that's my thing.
Tyree Jackson, Anthony Johnson, they got a couple of weapons on offense and some pretty good ones, too. So I'm going to go with Buffalo.
Buffalo's got a good record in this one, I think. So, Buffalo.
I'm going to go with Buffalo as well. I don't like this, guys. I can't hear any music. I feel like we're just talking. It just doesn't...
Try pulling out your headphones like halfway from
Dude,
the
that's
outlet.
because it's not your show anymore.
It just doesn't seem right. For the Sun Belt title, Louisiana and Appalachian State.
Well, guys, I'm going with Appalachian State in the Sun Belt title.
I'm also going to go with ASU. Go App State.
Go App State because App State.
I'm listening on two different headphones right now, and it still doesn't work. So
Blake,
that's
I said
okay.
pull the headphone jack out like halfway.
That's okay, but now I'm like messing up this whole thing. Appalachian State, the CUSA title for Conference USA, UAB at Middle Tennessee.
Well, these guys already played
Last
once.
week.
They played last week, and it was ugly. Middle Tennessee State won 27-3. So I'm taking, what are they, the Blue Raiders? I'm taking the Blue Raiders in this one again.
I got to go Middle Tennessee, too.
I'm going Middle Tennessee.
I'm going to go with UAB. Shout out to the guys because they didn't have a football team a few years ago. Oh my goodness, this one looks delicious. The Pac-12 title game featuring Utah and Washington. One of these teams is going to be in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, that's sad. This is not my Pac-12 championship game. I firmly believe if the Pac-12 actually does a review a couple weeks ago, I think it's Washington State and ASU, or at least Washington and ASU. I'm still disappointed about that Oregon game. I'm taking Washington in this one. I'm just not... Ever since that Utah-ASU game, I just haven't been high on Utah. And you guys remember earlier in this season, I've said that I thought Utah was the real deal, and I'm just not feeling it anymore. I think Washington is a better defense, and I think they've got a few more weapons offensively. I'm taking UW in the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, I'm with you again. I've said it a couple times on this show when they've been in our pick'ems. No Zach Moss, no Tyler Huntley, and they're going up against the UW team that not just offensively has some nice weapons at the running back position, but like we said, that's secondary. Byron Murphy, JoJo McIntosh, Taylor Rapp. I don't see how Utah puts up many points on these guys. I got to go with UW.
I'm going Washington with an R. Washington.
I'm going to go with Washington as well. The Big 12 title game featuring a rematch of the Red River rivalry, Texas and Oklahoma.
Rematch. I'm taking Boomer Sooner in this one, guys. I think Oklahoma has more to lose, and I think they have more to gain. I'm taking the Sooners in a little bit of rematch in the Red River rivalry.
Well, it was after this game that Blake Harris came out on this show and said Kyler Murray was 6th in his Heisman race. Well, since then, it's only been up for Oklahoma and Kyler Murray, and it's going to continue to go up. So I'm going to take Oklahoma.
Well, our friend Chase is a big Oklahoma fan, so I'm really pulling for him. So I'm going to say Oklahoma's going to win this game.
Boomer Sooner. I like Oklahoma in this one. The American title, that's the best one there is, featuring Memphis and UCF.
All right, boys. Here it comes. The streak ends this week. I'm going with Brady White and the Memphis Tigers.
No Mackenzie Milton's tough, but I'm still going to give the national champs the benefit of the doubt.
Relax.
And take UCF.
I like Brady White in this one.
All right.
I'm going to go with Brady White.
I think the streak lives on and UCF wins to see another day. The SEC title with Alabama and Georgia.
This will actually be a good game, guys. I really think that Georgia has a chance in this one, but there's just no reason for me to go against Alabama in this one. I think Bama takes the SEC title, and regardless of the outcome, they make the playoff.
I got Bama. Georgia will keep it close for a little bit, but I'm going to say Bama by 14 at the end.
Bama, not even close.
I like Bama as well. The Mountain West title with Fresno State and Boise State. Those aren't states.
This will be another really good game. They already played earlier, and I don't see any revenge coming in this one. I'm taking the Broncos.
I like Boise State too. Fresno State, they've had a good year. They got put in the top 25 this week, but I like the Broncos too.
I like Boise State in this one. I think it's played at Boise, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's another home game. So I'm going to go Boise State.
I'm going to go with Fresno State in this game, the ACC title featuring Clemson and Pittsburgh.
Pitt's got no chance, guys. I'm taking Clemson.
Clemson, which brings us to the last one, the best for last, the Big Ten title game featuring Northwestern and Ohio State.
Well, as you guys know, I'm a massive Notre Dame fan. And
because of the jersey.
Yes, because I lost a bet. Notre Dame beat Northwestern, and I didn't really give Northwestern a whole lot of chance in that, and I didn't give them a whole lot of chance against Iowa, and then so on and so forth. I've talked up Northwestern all season long. I really have, and I've said it since day one. Northwestern had a really good shot to play in the Big Ten title game. I've said that since our preview episode, but I didn't pick them as the season progressed. And now my man Pete's got me fired up, boys. I'm taking Northwestern to upset Ohio State in the Big Ten championship.
I really do want to do it, Pete. You made your case, and it was a really, really good one, to say the least. I don't think Northwestern can quite put up enough points to hang with Ohio State's offense, but I'm gonna take Ohio State, but barely. This is gonna be a fantastic game, I think.
2 weeks in a row for OHIO, Ohio State.
I really want Northwestern to win this game, but I got to get my points so I can win this, and I'm going to go with Ohio State.
And Pete said that BH was number one.
I'm sorry, Pete. I'm rooting for Northwestern.
I'm just rooting for every good game and everyone has fun.
I'm
rooting for another turf guy. Remember that from last year?
No.
The turf
That
delay
was
that happened
awful.
like 30 minutes in the game.
God.
But guys, that does wrap up our final Tuesday night show of the year because the fans don't know, but this is our last week of school. Arizona State ends the end of November.
Let's get
We
out
have
of
finals next week. Now we are going to have a full-on bowl show next week, which is essentially just an hour-long pick-ups of just all the bowl games, but we talk about some of the bowl games as well. If you want to listen to that, that is going to be next Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll write that because I'm sure a lot of people are going to forget, but that's Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern next week. So we're off for about 9 days. So thank you to everyone that tuned in on Tuesday nights this semester. It was a fun time. We started off doing this going till like 11 p.m., then 10 and whatnot. The times have been changing, but the fans have been staying, and that's what matters. So shout out to you guys. As I mentioned, the Bowls, don't forget to join our Bowl Pick'em League. The link is going to be in the description as well. Compete with Brady, Josh, Lyle, and I. If you score more points than any of us, well,
you don't win anything. Good for you.
You win pride, and that's what matters the most. Follow the show on Twitter at the HHShow_. That is correct.
And follow us.
And follow everyone on Twitter.
Yeah.
Follow all of us on Twitter. All right. We will see you guys next week. Before we do, for Josh Schaefer wearing his great Notre Dame jersey, number 7, Lyle Goldstein wearing his Notre Dame shirt, Brady Klein wearing his Indiana Pacers pullover. Did they win tonight?
They beat the Suns.
They beat the Phoenix Suns. This has been Blake
Hoosiers
Harris
lost, though.
from the Bill Austin Radio Studio for the final time on a Tuesday night at 10:30 Eastern. The shirt has come off. It is on the ground.
That's my jersey.
And we will see you guys next week. The camera!